Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Today I'm going over a new poll by The Economist and Yougov. I first saw this poll on realclearpolitics.com. I'll just show you really quick. I saw it's this poll down here. So I'm looking at this one and I thought it'd be a fun video to go over and just see what the poll has to say about how President Trump and his administration are doing right now. In this week's Economist Yougov poll covers bearish economic views, Republican unity in rare dissents with Trump, the war in Ukraine, and education. On the economy, among the negative economic indicators this week, find 48% of Americans say they think the economy is getting worse, which is up from 37% at the start of Donald Trump's second term. Only 19% say they think the economy is getting better. And you can see here in the chart, it says, do you think the U.S. economy is getting better or worse? 48% say it is getting worse, about the same, going to be about 26%, getting better about 19%, not sure about 7%. So not a majority, but very close to a majority of respondents in this poll believe the economy is getting worse. 47% of Americans expect higher inflation in 6 months, more than twice the share 6 months ago. Do Americans expect higher, lower, or similar inflation? Again, 47% find a higher rate of inflation. The same rate of inflation is going to be about 15%. A lower rate of inflation, about 24%, though that has decreased from December where it was about 30%. That's down to 24%. Not sure about 14%. So again, not a majority, but a plurality of respondents in the poll do expect a higher rate of inflation. 48% say the inflation rate has gone up since January, while only 6% say it has gone down. 72% of Democrats and 26% of Republicans say inflation has risen since January. 2% of Democrats and 10% of Republicans say it has gone down. So even though Democrats are a lot more critical of inflation and such in this poll, now that President Trump is in office, the president often gets a lot of blame. Republicans in 2024 were blaming Biden for the economy. Now Democrats are blaming Trump for their economy. That's just the way it goes back and forth. But 26% of Republicans in the poll also blame Trump for the rise of inflation since January, although I do think the poll goes into more details on that later on. Far more Americans say inflation has increased since January than say it has decreased. U.S. adult citizens, 48% say gone up, 27% stay the same, 6% say it's gone down, and 19% are not sure. And again, breaking down that party ID, Democrats, 72% gone up, 15% stayed the same, 10% not sure. Independents, 46% say it's gone up, 24% say it stayed the same, 5% are unsure, 26%, or 5% say gone down, 26% are unsure. When Republicans are asked, 26% say it has gone up, 43% stayed the same, 10% gone down, 20% not sure. This is not very surprising that Democrats, as I mentioned, are more critical of President Trump and the economy now that Trump is in office. Typically, the president gets the blame from the opposite party when they are in charge. The Democrats blame Trump for the economy. Republicans blame probably Biden for the economy based off how things are going right now, and I bet the poll goes more into that, but that's where things stand on that one. Slightly more Americans expect their household finances to be better in a year than expect their finances to be worse, 33% to 28%, but it's the narrowest gap in 6 months. Better off financially, 33%. Worse off financially, 28%, which has risen as the poll has mentioned, and just about the same as now, 25%. So a closer poll in that one, but 5% more say better. 37% of Americans say we are in a recession, which has risen from 30% in the poll taken a month earlier. The change is driven by Democrats, who 49% say we are in a recession, up from 30%. The share of Republicans who say we are in a recession is 25%, which has gone down from the 31% it was before. Overall, U.S. adult citizens, 37% believe we're in a recession, 32% believe we are not, 31% say they're not sure, so a very even split here between yes, not sure, and no. Democrats, 49 to 26, believe we are in a recession, about 26% are not sure. Independents, 38% say yes, 37% not sure, no, 25%. Republicans more adamant that we're not in a recession, 25% say yes, 28% say not sure, 47% say no. which is very interesting because if my memory serves me correctly, when I was looking at these polls during the 2024 campaign, when President Trump, or then candidate Trump, was running against Kamala Harris, a lot of these polls asked this question, and the Democrats were adamant we are not in a recession, and the Republicans were adamant that we were. And now that it's kind of flipped, that Trump's in office, so it's just interesting how these things in the polls flip depending on who the president is. So I just find that interesting. Trump is taking the blame, or some blame, for perceived economic weakness. His job approval numbers for handling of the economy and inflation are down from the start of his term. 43% strongly or somewhat approve of Trump's handling of jobs and the economy, and 47% disapprove. That's -4 on that issue. 49% approved and 37% disapproved about that question at the end of January. 38% approve of Trump's handling of inflation/prices, 52% disapproved, 45% approved, and 39% disapproved at the end of January. More say Trump is more responsible for the current state of the economy than, say, his predecessor Joe Biden, which is 44% to 34%, less than 2 months after Trump replaced Biden. Democrats overwhelmingly say Trump is more responsible, 72% versus 8%, no surprise there, while only 21% of Republicans say Trump is more responsible, and 65% say Biden is. So that's a lot of numbers there, but Americans are more likely to say Donald Trump is more responsible than Joe Biden for the state of the economy. 34% blame Joe Biden, 44% blame Donald Trump, 9% blame neither, 14% say they're not sure. When it goes into party ID, 72% blame Trump if they are Democrat, 8% blame Biden, 9% are unsure, 11% are, or 11% say neither, 11% are unsure, 9% say neither. Independents, when they're asked, 27% blame Biden, 41% blame Trump, 19% are not sure, 13% say neither. When it comes to the Republicans, 65% of Republicans blame Biden, 21% blame Trump, 10% not sure, and 4% say neither. Trump's tariffs are unpopular. Americans are more likely to oppose than support them, and are more likely to expect tariffs to raise prices and hurt the average American. 60% of Americans say raising tariffs would hurt the average American, only 13% say it would help. Democrats overwhelmingly say tariff increases would help, not hurt, 90% versus 4, while Republicans are divided on this issue, 32% say hurt to 28% say approve. Here's the chart here. As I mentioned, 60 overall percent say hurt, 13% say help, 6% no effect, 21% not sure. 90% of Democrats say it will hurt, 60% of independents say it will hurt, Republicans have 32% saying it will hurt, while 28% of Republicans say it will help. By 76 to 9% of Americans oppose the U.S. military force to take control of Canada. Only 6% of Democrats and 15% of Republicans support that issue. Republican unity. While Trump isn't unusually popular for a president early in his term in office, his popularity among Republicans is very high, which also means that the popularity among Democrats is very, very small. Trump's job approval among Republicans is running ahead of his level in his first term and roughly in line with what Biden's was at the beginning of Biden's term. Net approval rating of do you approve or disapprove of the way Joe Biden and Donald Trump is handling his job as president? And this shows where things stand right now in the first year of their presidency. Trump's second term, I believe, is up here at plus 91, and Biden's was right around the same right there. Trump's overall job approval, though, sits right in between Biden's at this stage and Trump's lower approval level at this stage of his first term. Again, looking at it here, do you approve or disapprove of the way Joe Biden is handling as president and U.S. citizens has done right now? I believe this is where it is. The current week is right here. Trump is plus 0. Biden says plus 8. Going up here, current week, if it's lined up correctly, Trump 83 plus 83, Biden plus 79 on that one. So it's a little complicated to read that chart, but it's all close together. But there you go on that one. Other examples from the poll. With overwhelming Republican support, 89% of a very or somewhat favorable view of Trump, as do 83% of Republicans for Vice President J.D. Vance. At least 80% approve of each of the following: Trump's handling of jobs and the economy, taxes and government spending, and crime. At least 80% say each of the following about Trump: he cares about the needs and problems of people like them, 81%, and that he is a very or somewhat strong leader, 96% agree with that. 73% of a very or somewhat positive reaction to Trump's address to a joint session of Congress last week, and only 5% were negative. 43% say it was one of his best of recent such presidential speeches. However, on two issues, more Republicans diverged from Trump, his proposals on suggestions than align with him. Using military force to take control of Greenland, 20% of Republicans support this, versus 56% opposing, and using taxpayer money to invest in cryptocurrency, 22% approve versus 48% disapprove. Ukraine, more Americans want to reduce or halt military aid to Ukraine than want to increase it, 35% versus 24%. 21% of Americans, including 6% of Democrats, and 33% of Republicans want to stop military aid to Ukraine entirely. In Trump's recent meeting with Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky, 51% of Americans think Trump was disrespectful towards Zelensky, while 32% think Zelensky was disrespectful towards Trump. Democrats overwhelmingly say Trump was disrespectful to Zelensky, was not, while the reverse is true, with less overwhelmingly margins among Republicans. Zelensky continues to be viewed favorably by a large amount of Democrats and unfavorably by a large share of Republicans. So a lot of the issues I've noticed in this poll are coming down to party lines. Depending on what President Trump thinks and what the Democrats think, usually the voters in this poll almost exclusively line up with these stances. Education, Americans are more positive about our public schools in their community than about public schools in the U.S. 42% rate their local schools as excellent or good, compared to 31% who say the same about national schools. Twice as many Americans oppose as support eliminating the U.S. Department of Education, 57% to 29%, by an even greater margin. More think eliminating the department would hurt public schools in their community a little or a lot than would help them, 54% versus 18%. This is the chart here. Again, 54% hurt, 18% help, 9% no effect, 19% not sure. Democrats overwhelmingly support the Department of Education, 86% to 3% approve. Independents, 52% think getting rid of the Department of Education would hurt, 15% think it would help. Republicans, 35% think getting rid of it would help, 27% would hurt, with 22% not sure and 15% no effect. For each of the 7 kinds of federal education spending, far more Americans support increases than decreases or total elimination. For 6 of the 7, at least 52% of Americans support increases. The exception is college financial profit. This is the methodology of the poll. The poll was released between March 9th and March 11th, 2025. The poll was conducted among 1,699 U.S. adult citizens. Respondents were selected from YouGov's opt-in panel to representative of U.S. adult citizens. A random sample was stratified of gender, age, race, education, geographic region, voter registration. The sample is weighted according to gender, age, race, education of the 2024 presidential vote, 2020 election turnout, and presidential vote, baseline party identification, and current voter registration status. 2024 presidential vote at the time of weighting was estimated to be 48% for Harris and 50% for Trump, and so forth on that. His weight in the party breakdown, 31% Democrat, 32% Republican. The margin of error of the overall sample of the poll was approximately 3%. So that's the poll. And looking at the overall, when it comes to Trump and his approval rating, this poll, the Economist Yougov poll, did have Trump's overall approval rating at 48%, his disapproval rating at 49%, so -1. Very, very close in the poll, but -1 in it. The overall average in real clear politics right now is Trump at 48.2 approve, 48.4 disapprove. So my main takeaway from this poll is there's clearly some very interesting findings in this poll, and I don't want to kind of rehash everything I just went over or diminish anything, but I think we're seeing a lot so far in the first few months of Trump's second term of Democrats really adamantly being against what Trump is doing, Republicans being very strongly behind what Trump is doing, and then independents usually going back and forth in the middle of it. It's not really too much of a surprise. I think we still have a long way to go to see how Trump's second term is going to go in terms of what the polls say, but that's where I think things stand on that, and that's what this poll between March 9th and March 11th has showed. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to give it a like. Please leave a comment below telling me any comments or questions you have. I'll be happy to look at them and reply to them. Thank you so much for watching, and hope to see you in a future video. Also, please remember to hit the like button and subscribe button as I post a new video every single day.